A single trembling signature changed everything. As tears slipped silently down Vivian Hartley's face, she placed the pen on the polished oak table in the middle of a lavish Christmas charity luncheon, where sparkling decorations, smiling executives, and expensive laughter surrounded her. The divorce papers lay before her like the final page of a life she had spent 12 years trying to protect. Before she could even wipe away her tears, whispers spread across the ballroom. People smirked. Some openly laughed. Others quietly congratulated her husband for finally escaping. None of them realized they were mocking a woman whose true identity had been hidden for years, a woman who would soon change every one of their lives without seeking revenge, only justice. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change the world, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our growing family and community. Vivian had never enjoyed attention. Long before marrying Graham Mercer, she had inherited extraordinary wealth from her late grandfather, a brilliant industrial engineer who quietly built one of Europe's largest renewable technology investment groups. Instead of living like an heiress, she chose anonymity. She believed love should never be measured by wealth. She placed her inheritance into a blind family trust, accepted a modest consulting position under another surname, and never revealed her financial standing to anyone outside a handful of attorneys and trustees. Graham had fallen in love with the woman who packed her own lunches, drove an aging station wagon, volunteered on weekends, and believed every person deserved dignity. For years, she believed she had found the perfect partner. They built a small home together, celebrated simple holidays, and dreamed about raising children. But success slowly changed Graham. A promotion introduced him to influential executives whose conversations revolved around status, luxury, and appearances. He became embarrassed by Vivian's simple wardrobe, her volunteer work, and her refusal to flaunt wealth she secretly possessed. The humble woman he once admired became, in his eyes, an obstacle to the image he wanted the world to admire. By the time Christmas arrived, Graham had already made his decision. He wanted a divorce before the new year so he could begin a public relationship with another executive whose family carried social prestige. He insisted the paperwork be finalized during the company's annual Christmas charity luncheon because attorneys, witnesses, and senior leadership would all be present. He framed the decision as mature and practical. In reality, it became public humiliation. Vivian arrived wearing a simple green winter dress and an old silver necklace that had belonged to her grandmother. While guests displayed expensive jewelry and tailored designer clothing, she blended quietly into the crowd. Graham barely acknowledged her presence. Instead, he laughed comfortably with colleagues who admired his confidence. Several assumed Vivian would beg him to reconsider. Instead, she calmly reviewed every page, paused only once to steady her breathing, and signed her name. The room erupted with whispers. Some claimed she had lost everything, others insisted Graham had finally escaped a burden. One woman laughed that Vivian would probably spend Christmas searching for an apartment. Each careless comment landed like another stone on an already broken heart. Still, she refused to defend herself. Her grandfather had once told her that character is revealed most clearly when someone has the power to humiliate another person but chooses compassion instead. She repeated those words silently while folding the signed documents and handing them back to the attorney. Only one person noticed the quiet dignity behind her tears. An elderly custodian named Arthur had worked in the building for over 30 years. He watched executives arrive in luxury cars every day, yet he recognized genuine kindness almost immediately. Vivian had always greeted him by name, asked about his grandchildren, and secretly paid for his wife's medical equipment when insurance refused coverage. Arthur knew she was different from everyone else in the room, even if he never understood why. He gently handed her a folded handkerchief. She smiled through her tears and thanked him exactly as she always had. That single act of kindness would later become one of the most important moments in Arthur's life. As the luncheon continued, the master of ceremonies announced an unexpected presentation. A representative from the Hartley Foundation had arrived to reveal the recipient of the foundation's largest annual corporate partnership, a 10-year sustainability investment worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Every executive in attendance straightened with excitement. Graham smiled confidently. His company had spent months pursuing the partnership. The representative walked toward the stage carrying a sealed envelope. Instead of announcing the winning company immediately, she requested that the chairperson of the Hartley Family Trust join her. Confused faces scanned the room. The representative smiled warmly. Her eyes settled on Vivian. For several seconds, nobody moved, then Vivian quietly stood. The ballroom fell completely silent. People looked from her to the representative and back. Again, convinced there had been a mistake, there wasn't. The representative welcomed Vivian Hartley, sole trustee and majority owner of the Hartley Foundation, explaining that she had personally financed hospitals, scholarships, homeless housing initiatives, veterans rehabilitation centers, and renewable energy projects across 3 countries for nearly a decade without attaching her name to any of them. Shock swept through the audience. Executives who had mocked her moments earlier suddenly remembered every cruel word they had spoken. Graham's face turned pale. He realized the woman he had dismissed as ordinary had quietly become one of the country's most respected philanthropists. But what shattered him most was not her wealth. It was learning that she had deliberately hidden it because she wanted to be loved for who she was rather than what she owned. The representative continued explaining that every finalist company had undergone extensive ethical evaluation. Financial performance mattered, integrity mattered even more, employee treatment, community service, leadership conduct, respect, compassion. Anonymous workplace observations had been gathered over many months. Several recordings from that very afternoon had already been reviewed because the Foundation's ethics observers had attended the luncheon. The room became painfully still. Executives realized their own behavior had become evidence. The partnership would not be awarded to Graham's company. The investigation revealed repeated patterns of workplace bullying, class discrimination, and public humiliation that violated every value the Foundation represented. Instead, the investment would support a smaller regional company whose employees consistently demonstrated kindness, fairness, and respect regardless of someone's position or appearance. No applause followed, only silence. Vivian stepped to the podium. Many expected revenge, others expected anger. Instead, she spoke softly about grief. She explained that losing a marriage hurt deeply, but losing compassion hurt even more. Wealth had never protected her from heartbreak. It never guaranteed loyalty. It simply gave her an opportunity to help people quietly. She admitted she still loved the man Graham used to be but could no longer recognize the person ambition had created. She thanked Arthur publicly for reminding her, with one simple gesture, that humanity still existed. The audience turned toward the elderly custodian. Arthur lowered his head, overwhelmed. Vivian then announced something nobody anticipated. Rather than expanding executive bonuses through the Foundation's holiday budget, she was creating an employee assistance program for custodians, receptionists, maintenance workers, cafeteria staff, and entry-level employees whose quiet contributions often went unnoticed. Arthur would become its first honorary advisor. He cried openly. Weeks later, newspapers covered the extraordinary announcement, but the headlines focused less on Vivian's fortune and more on her decision to reward character instead of influence. Applications flooded into the Foundation, communities benefited, scholarships expanded, housing projects multiplied, medical grants reached families who had nearly lost hope. Meanwhile, Graham discovered that status built on appearances disappears quickly. Several professional opportunities vanished after people questioned his leadership. Former colleagues who had once admired his confidence quietly distanced themselves. For the first time in years, he experienced the loneliness his choices had created. Months later, during another daytime charity event supporting children's literacy, Graham saw Vivian speaking with volunteers. She looked peaceful, not because life had become easy, but because she had finally stopped measuring her worth through someone else's approval. He approached her carrying a handwritten letter. Inside were pages accepting responsibility without excuses. He admitted he had confused success with significance and admiration with love. He expected nothing in return except the chance to apologize honestly. Vivian read every word. She thanked him sincerely, she forgave him, but forgiveness did not erase consequences. She wished him healing, encouraged him to become the compassionate man she once believed he could be, and walked back toward a group of children waiting to begin their reading program. That moment taught Graham something wealth never had: some doors reopen, others remain closed because the lesson behind them has already been learned. Over the following years, Graham devoted himself to nonprofit work, mentoring struggling families and supporting employment programs. He never rebuilt the marriage, but he slowly rebuilt his character. He eventually understood that redemption is earned through consistent actions rather than dramatic apologies. Vivian never sought another life defined by titles or headlines. She continued living modestly, funding projects anonymously whenever possible. She believed the greatest legacy was not leaving behind buildings with her name engraved on them but leaving behind people whose lives had been changed through quiet acts of generosity. Arthur retired surrounded by hundreds of employees who celebrated him as the heart of the building. The foundation established an annual kindness award in his honor, recognizing individuals whose smallest actions created the greatest hope. Every recipient received the same silver handkerchief embroidered with a simple message: dignity costs nothing but changes everything. Years after that unforgettable Christmas luncheon, many guests could barely remember the expensive decorations or elegant meals. What they remembered was the woman everyone underestimated, the tears they had mistaken for weakness, and the grace that answered cruelty with compassion. Before we reach the end of this story, please leave a meaningful comment telling us whether you believe kindness always reveals a person's true strength, even when the world misunderstands them. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Vivian's greatest victory was never proving that she was wealthy. It was proving that a gentle heart can remain unbroken by bitterness, that forgiveness can exist without surrendering self-respect, and that true greatness is measured not by what people own, but by how they choose to treat others when no one believes they are important. On a Christmas afternoon that began with tears and humiliation, one woman lost a marriage, found her freedom, restored hope to countless strangers, and reminded everyone present that the richest soul in the room is rarely the loudest one.